Hey everyone, how are you? I'm Rachel and I am here live from the Facebook group Seize Your Passion every Friday at 4 p.m. Really just thinking out loud with you guys, sharing my thoughts for the week, what I've learned for the week, my growth hopefully for the week, my takeaways from those thoughts and lessons of the week on my journey to seize my passion, and really just figuring out what seize your passion really means to me, what personal growth and fulfillment is all about for me on my journey. And this week, actually, the topic I want to talk about, what I've been thinking about this week, is the fact that it is my journey. And it's different. The journey is different for each and every one of us. And there is no one way to get there, to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's success, however you define success, or personal growth or fulfillment, what that looks like for you. You know, the end result is different for each and every one of us, and the journey to get to that end result, the steps that work for us that we take to get there are different for each and every one of us. And those steps actually even change over the course of our own individual lives, right? What my goals were 10 years ago are even in that same realm of personal growth and fulfillment may be different from my goals of what they are today. And the steps that I take to get there and what work for me, the steps that work for me are different 10 years ago than they are today, and so on and so forth. As I grow, I'm sure they'll continue to change and evolve. And the reason I started thinking about this and talking about this today, and decided to talk about this today, is because it started with I read this article in the New York Times on Sunday, and it was basically a story about this guy who basically, personified the American dream, right? He had gone to an Ivy League college, and he was a successful tech entrepreneur and venture capitalist, and he had achieved massive success both in society's terms and in his own, for his own personal goals, what he thought he wanted to achieve. He also failed many times and then succeeded many times, and basically in this most recent chapter of his life, he basically decided to sell all of his worldly possessions, including his, his home that he owned and everything else, literally, and just travel the world. And what he's doing now is writing about what he believes in, which is, don't waste your money on college, basically. You're better off investing your money in traveling the world and going to the School of Hard Knocks and learning online, because we can today. He's sort of, posing the American dream as a sham, and he's sort of the anti personal development guru. Now, I get it, that may be the answer for him, and that's what works for him. He's also privileged enough to have done both, right? He went to the Ivy League school, and he had that American dream, and he followed the steps that he was taught that he should follow to achieve whatever he thought he wanted to achieve. And now he's exploring a completely, a 360-degree opposite journey to achieve something else that he now is defining for himself what he wants to achieve. And that's working for him now, and that worked for him in the past. So it's first of all, it's easy for someone who's been there to say, oh, don't do that. But also, what may be right for one person is not necessarily right for another, right? The idea of getting a formal college education and just being in that world of academia for some people is completely, just life-changing and something that they never would have imagined. And if they have the opportunity to do it, it adds tremendous value to them. And for others, maybe they grew up in a privileged environment where it's taken for granted, and it would not add much value to them, and actually going out there and traveling the world or experiencing life in the School of Hard Knocks would add more value to them than it would for someone else. But there's no one way, right? For him, that's the way right now. And what got me thinking even further about this was, there's so many people today preaching and teaching, here's 10 steps to achieve what I achieved, or here's 5 ways you could, attain what I attained, right? And I'm not saying that having mentors or having role models and modeling someone who's achieved something you want to achieve is a bad thing. I think it's great and wonderful, but there's no one way, right? The 10 steps or the exact way that worked for them is not necessarily going to work for you, because again, it's all about figuring out your individual path and your individual authentic self and what works for you and what's right for you. And what the exact 10 steps that worked for someone else are not necessarily going to work for you, right? There may be even 9 out of 10 things that you want to take from that and sort of make it your own, and then you take something from somewhere else and you create your own new step because of your life experience and your genetic makeup and who you are. And you create your own masterpiece and your own 10 steps to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's, your definition of what success is or your own personal growth and fulfillment, right? And, a big part of that is, they say it's not about the end result, right? It's about the journey. I would take it even a step further. I would say it's about both, and I would say that not only is the journey different for each and every one of us, but the end result is different for each and every one of us, right? Each and every one of us has different goals that we want to achieve and different definitions of what success is to us, or what personal growth and fulfillment in life and finding your purpose in life means to us. And what's right for one person is not necessarily right for you and is not your definition. So first it's about figuring out, okay, and that changes even as an individual, right? What you want to achieve at one point in your life is different from what you want to achieve at a different point in your life. So first you figure out what's right for you, what's your way, what's your end result, and then the whole point is how you figure out what the right journey, what your path is to get there. And again, there's no one way, there's no one right answer, and here's what really like honed it in for me this week. It was that article, and then it was thinking about all these, people out there and people that I admire and respect saying, okay, here's the steps that you have to do. Here's the structure you have to follow. Here's what you have to do every single day. And here's your regimen. Here's what worked for me. Okay, but that may not work for someone else, right? So, this week I had a day during the week where I wasn't in my office. I wasn't sitting at my desk, and I didn't have my usual schedule and routine and structure. That works very well for me most of the time, right? I need structure, I need goals, I need consistency, I need discipline. That works great for me, and I've learned that from other mentors, right? Who say, write down your goals for the week, for the month, for the year, and for the day, and then prioritize. Wonderful. That really has worked well for me. However, if I veer off of that, I realized this week when I wasn't sitting at my desk and I had to drive, a long distance to reach the meeting and then drive back, and I had time away from my desk, and I couldn't, fit within the box that I had made for myself of writing out the goals for the day and prioritizing those goals, because that was my day, right? It was this meeting, and it was actually conversing with another human being, and it was just having that time, just driving alone in the car. I realized I had all these new ideas and new ways of thinking that opened up my mind in a way that if I had followed my regimen of the 10 steps that I was told, okay, here's what you do to get to from point A to point B, would never have opened up in my mind, because that's not necessarily the right way for me. While I need structure and discipline and regimen, and I do need that set schedule and those set goals most of the time, I also realized that I very much need to step away from that sometimes and just not have a plan for the day, or go off that usual plan and do something else to open up my mind in a different way, because otherwise, personally for me, I become too focused on the trees and I don't see the forest, right? I have too much of a tunnel vision. And again, really, it just made me realize that so many people out there, it's so easy to want to believe that here's the answer, right? You want to achieve what I succeed? Here's how you do it. Follow these steps and you will attain it. That's a lovely, easy thing to latch onto, and that's why we tend to do that, and we want to do that, right? If you see someone who's achieved something that you want to achieve, and they say, here's the steps I took to get there, follow these steps and you'll get there too. It doesn't work that way, because what works for them, and their individuality and what we're all unique, we're all authentic, and we all have a unique and authentic and different path to follow to reach that end result. So, the cliche, it's not about the end result, it's about the journey, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Yes, but it's actually not just mimicking or following or finding some sort of one right way of this is the path I need to take and this is the journey I want to take. It's the journey itself is actually figuring out what your journey is, what your individual, authentic, true self is to achieve whatever that end result is. Again, whether it's in the realm of personal growth and fulfillment and purpose on a higher, bigger level, or it's specific goals that you want to reach. You know, and another thing that is kind of tied into the same discussion and topic that I was thinking about this week is, hi everyone, nice to see some familiar names, you know, the fact that we're even having this discussion, the fact that I'm sitting here and talking about personal growth and fulfillment and seizing your passion and what that means and pontificating about all this high level stuff, and the fact that it's become such a huge forefront of the conversation today, you know, everywhere, and such a big sort of mainstream topic, personal development, personal growth, find your purpose, follow your passion. That's such a privilege and such a luxury, and we're so lucky to even be engaging in that conversation and to even go there, right? Because, you know, years ago, and that's part of the opportunity of the life, the modern day life we live in, but even today, there are so many people who there's no time to, it's a matter of survival, right? It's just a matter of existing and living, whether it's, you know, putting food on the table for your family or, and thank God I don't know about that. I just know about it. I've never experienced it myself, thank God, you know, but this is a luxury and a privilege, and I don't take that for granted for a second. And so sometimes when I hear people saying this is the way to do it, and they're talking from a place of not even recognizing that the fact that they're even having the conversation is a privilege and a luxury of what personal growth and fulfillment even means, to even be able to have that discussion, and that conversation is a privilege and a luxury. You know, there are people who are just trying to survive, they don't even get to go there. So that's first and foremost, you know. And secondly, there is no one way. There's no 10 steps. Here's, you know, you could certainly take and learn from different people, and if something works for you, great, but you have to make it your own, and you have to figure out what your right way is. There's no one right way. It's what's your right way and what your journey is. That's a good reminder, our privilege. Totally. It is a good reminder. It was a reminder for me, you know. I read that somewhere and I was like, oh my God, that's so true. You know, it's a freaking luxury and a privilege to be even having this discussion, to be able to even talk about this stuff, you know. And the second point that was a good reminder for me is, again, there's no one right way, right? There's so many people out there who are saying, you know, here's the 10 steps, here's what you need to do here. Well, for them it worked, and maybe some of that could work for you, but you have to take from there and find your own stuff and create your own masterpiece and your own story and your own journey. And that's what the journey is about, is figuring out what your journey really is, and what your way is, what your path is, to seizing your passion. And that's to me, you know, so every week I talk, you know, I say I'm thinking out loud, and I'm sort of sharing with you what seize your passion means to me and what it's all about. That's what it means to me this week, right? And it's different for all of us. And maybe maybe, you know, something of what I said, you know, touches a nerve with you, and other stuff kind of not, but you take that and you mull it around and you mesh it up with something else that someone else said that really honed in on something that you were thinking about or works for you, and you put it together and you create your own magical sauce. You know, that's really what I wanted to talk about. There's no one way, you know, and again, we tend to want to believe that there is one magic answer, or here's the way, or do this and you won't fail. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. There's no one way. There's your way, and figuring out what that way is what it's all about. That's the way. So just engaging in that conversation, again, is a privilege and a luxury, and the journey is about figuring that out. You know, what personal growth and fulfillment and seizing your passion means to you, what's right for you, what works for you, what it looks like for you. And that too, in and of itself, in your individual world, can change and evolve, and should change and evolve as you grow and evolve. So that's it. There's no one way. There's your way, and there's my way, and we're all just figuring it out, or I'm just trying to figure it out. And that's it. So have an amazing weekend, guys, and seize your passion. Figure it out. Ciao, guys.